Hello, everyone. Today is August 26, 2021. This is the Kubernetes Storage SIG meeting. Today, we are going to go over our 1.23 planning spreadsheet. So there are a few deadlines coming. September 2nd, next Thursday, we have a soft freeze deadline for production readiness, meaning that if you're working on a feature that is targeting alpha, beta, or GA, you need to have the production readiness review form filled out and pin the reviewer, say that it is ready for review. And then the following week, September 9th, that's the cap freeze deadline. So all the caps has to emerge by that day. And then we have a few topics today that we can go to after our planning. Okay, so the first one is the Delegate FS Group 2 CSI Driver instead of Kubernetes. Is Haman here?
Yeah. And this feature is going beta from alpha. I think we will have to update. We might have to update the targets of the cap and everything. And we need to get another PRR readiness review for beta. I don't know.
I think, yeah, because for beta, there are different criteria, right? There was one section that you need to fill out for alpha. That's actually a pretty small section.
Right.
And then,
yeah.
but I don't know if you completed everything, but I think, yeah, you need to get the PRR review again.
Okay, I'll work on that. And then, yeah. Then me and Cheng is working offline. It shouldn't take long to actually move the feature kit, but just.
Okay. Thank you. Next one is another FS group related feature, non-recursive volume ownership. This one is going GA. Matt or Haman?
I spoke with Matt offline, and I know he's there or not gone. Okay, yeah. So I'll follow up with him, and either of us, like, I'm not yet sure he has some time cycle. Like, actual work is pretty minimal to actually move the feature kit, but I think this also has to undergo a PRR review because the feature is going from beta to GA, right? So
Yeah.
I'll sync with him and work on updating the PRR. I'm not sure if I will have time for that, but yeah, I'll sync with him.
Okay, but I think the forms for beta and GA seems to be the same. I mean, if you are filling out the PRR, I think so. At least I don't see any section that is only required for GA but not for beta.
Okay.
But I think it's still good too. I think they still need to review it if since we're changing the target, right?
And this cap is somewhat old, so it's possible that like the PRR criteria itself changed between the, like when this cap was merged from, it was accepted for beta versus now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then I think the next one is another FS group related feature, configure FS group policy in CSI Driver. This is also going to GA. So Jonathan or Hemant?
Yeah, I'll be working on the PR for that.
Thank you. And then next is CSI online file resizing. This is the general one. So this one still stays in beta. Or are we going to do this work copy allow word expansion from SC to PV? So this is the remaining.
Yeah, that's the main blocker for recovery. The volume expansion going GA is the item below, the recovery from expansion.
Oh, okay.
And the copying of field we have tried, but it just breaks. Like, we cannot stop supporting a storage class field. It violates the API guarantees of a beta feature. So
okay.
Yeah, I just don't see a way. Me and Michelle talked offline about this one. I just don't see a way of we could support both. Then it becomes like there are two sources of truth and it's confusing. So yeah, and I pinged API reviewers, Jordan and Tim didn't get any input on this one. So I don't know if we'll end up copying the field from PV to sorry SC to PV.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then the next one is the recover from resize failures. So trying to do alpha.
Yeah, so I have update to the cap posted, but I'm working on the state machine diagram actually, like and getting it's complicated features. It requires like a little bit like yeah more uh, detailed state diagram. So and the PRR review was approved previously, but uh, I might get another PRR review just in case. And yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Next one is a bug fix issues related to issuing volumes among points. Hit or Xing. And do we have any update? Looks like it has not been updated for a while.
So I think after Clinton's change, so there's the risk should be kind of improved or like avoided, and but there is still some issue related to like hanging by NFS because we're checking the mount point in some places and we should avoid. And I want to like working on that soon. There was a PR reverted before, but after the race was resolved, we might be able to revert to like merge that PR back. So to solve the issue that when checking the mount point get hung, I think.
Okay, thank you. Next one is storage capacity tracking. This one, okay, so it's staying beta. Patrick here. Michelle, do you know anything about this?
I'm here. Yeah,
Oh, you're
sorry,
here.
I just
Okay.
had to find my window again with a mute button. No, storage capacity doesn't change anything. No changes planned for this cycle.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we can actually cross this out for this quarter then.
Yeah, probably.
I'll figure out how to do that later. Okay. Thank you. And the next one is yours again, PVC inline ephemeral volume going GA.
Yeah, that is planned. I looked at the GA criteria again, just to refresh my memory what still needs to be done. I started a discussion thread on SIG storage on Slack about that today. The 3 points that need to be met is some user testimonials. I'm not sure how serious we are about that. Are the other GA promotions actually collecting feedback from users, or is that just something that we put in for this particular feature?
So I actually have not seen anyone collecting, like submitting surveys or anything like that. But like for Snapshot, for example, I basically just asked people attending the data protection working group whether they are using that feature in production or not. So that's how I get some data.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about other features.
Yeah, for the storage, for the generic ephemeral ones, there is no real working group. So the only avenue that I have to reach users is the Slack channel, and perhaps look at bug
email,
fix.
right? Maybe you can send an email to the, the mailing list.
or a mailing list, something like that. I'm just wondering what happens if we don't get feedback, because that really means we now depend on users to tell us what we might just get blocked by people not acting, although they are using it. That's my biggest concern, actually. So even though it's technically ready and it is getting used, we just don't know whether that's the case.
Yeah, so I like this isn't really super helpful right now, but like I at least know one user that wants to use the feature, but they haven't yet. But yeah, I think I will at least be able to confirm one user in the future.
Yeah, okay. And others have fixed issues around it. So those probably was also motivated by actually depending on it. So I can go back to those people and see whether they can confirm that they are using it. The controller configuration thing, that was a PR that came from someone else who has not been involved with the CAP before. Oh, yeah, that might be two people. Okay, and then I asked about testing, because the downgrade testing was listed, which Michelle on Slack said that it can be done manually, which should be fairly easy. How far back do we need to go back?
Just one release.
That's fine then, because there has been no change in the API. It should just work exactly the same way, even if we promote the API to GA.
I think for downgrade testing, what that means more is like going back to a version where the feature is disabled. So it's more about like
go back to alpha, you mean?
Enabling and disabling the feature.
Okay, so it's, well, going back to where it's disabled by default would be in 120. Well, what was it? 120.
Do you need to go back to alpha, Michelle? What does that mean?
No, it doesn't need to be disabled by default, but just like downgrade testing is more about testing the feature being enabled and then disabled.
Okay. I've done that before. Do I need to do it again for GA or?
No, that's probably fine if you've already done that.
Yeah, I checked that when we went to beta. And that it's listed again under GA, I think it's just from the template. I'm not even sure what I don't think we've discussed in detail what was meant with it. We are doing that now. Anyway, I think it's not a bigger problem for this particular feature anyway. Scalability testing, yeah, I just asked some questions on Slack and we can follow up there. I can certainly add something to Cluster Loader to test this. Running it then will have the same issues as all of our storage tests. You basically need to know what cluster has a storage provisioner that you can use for this particular test. And I don't know what we have for the existing test, but we can take that offline or to the Slack channel and continue there.
Okay. Thank you. And next one is the working group. So I updated the CAP. I think that there are some comments from Humble. I actually still have a question for him. I think I need to ping him to get the answer for that particular question so that I can update it again. Okay, next one, CSI auto tree, move iSCSI driver fit and finish. Okay, so this one is Humble or Christian. Do we have any update on this? Otherwise, I'll just say no update. And the next one is move sambascsi CSI driver to GA. We have any update on this? Andy, Julie, Michelle, Matt. Is that the same as before? Okay, so I'll just say no update. I'm not sure what's the status for this one. And the next one, the deprecation notice for Flexflow. I think I think there are still some unresolved discussions in that Google Doc where we have this message drafted. So I think maybe I'll pin Michelle and Yang and figure out and see if we can finalize this. And the next one is a PVC volume snapshot namespace transfer. So Mustafa said he wanted just to do a design in 1.23. So I just changed the status to design for this quarter because there are still some issues, there's some comments on the cap that needs to be resolved. And next one, CSI Volume House, additional metrics. Yeah, so I updated the cap. I'm not sure if we can directly go to beta because the metrics actually has some, there is some Kubernetes metrics API that was not there before. So now we added those. I'm not sure if we can actually go directly to beta. Michelle, if you can take a look and then we can decide whether, we should still stay in alpha or go directly to beta for that, but the cap is ready for review.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. The next one is CSI Volume House programmatic response. So last time we said we want to split this from the previous item so that we can make progress in parallel. So Nick actually said his coworker has written down some details on how they are handling this case, so how they do reaction. I think he's going to clean up that a little bit and then add that to the Google Doc. So, so then we can go from there. And the next one is volume populator data source. Ben.
Yeah, Xing, I think you know what's going on here. We're working on releasing the alpha builds of these things. We're currently blocked on a large number of infra people being out on vacation this week, but eventually people will come back from vacation and we'll get the infra changes merged, the release tools stuff Patrick is helping with, and then those releases will go out. Regarding 123, the hope is to go to beta. I was looking at the graduation criteria that we wrote down in the KEP. I think the real challenge is going to be finding some more examples of real popular use cases and implementing those. And then having an E2E test is another criteria for going to beta. So we're going to see if we can get those done in this coming release.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And the next one is Cozy. Do we have, so we're trying to do our alpha. We have Srini or Ben, you want to talk about this?
I missed the last week's meeting. I've been following the thread. We're trying to get Tim to review the updated KEP and it's been silence from him so far. So I don't know if he's too busy or if has taken a look at it, but no news on the KEP review.
Yeah, we have not seen any response from Tim.
But Sid has been repeatedly poking him, saying, "Please review,
yeah.
please review."
Sad, I wonder if you can help pin Tim on this one.
Yeah, I can check in with him.
Okay. Thank you. Next one is the change block tracking. Do we have fun here or no? I think they are working on a cap. So I'll just say working on. This is targeting design for this release. And the next one is runtime assisted mounting. Deep. Do you want to update? Hey.
Yeah, so I put in the comments the issue number and the get PR. So I guess they just need to be put in the actual cells.
Oh, okay. So let me see.
I don't have access. But yeah, so far the initial KEP PR is out and got a lot of great feedback from Patrick and Jan. Jan pointed out a bunch of good issues to think about, mainly around subpath and SLinux handling and FS group. So yeah, those are kind of like the next steps to figure out like how do we expand support to those things, or can we consider limiting scope a bit. So thinking through that, and KEP is in progress.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why this one does not let me accept it. Okay, maybe I'll just copy this one. Okay, I'll fix that one later. And then the next one is the CSI proxy for Windows transition to privileged containers. Do we have Masio here to give an update on this? Or Xing or Deep?
Yeah, overall, we are kind of thinking of like how to structure the API. So that's still in the initial discussion phase at this point.
Thank you. And next one is CSI migration. Deprecating, okay, officially deprecate cloud provider plugins.
Yeah, I think I will be working on this.
And the next one is the CSI Migration Core, still Java.
Yeah, there are, I think, 2 issues remaining. I had some PR opened yesterday. I'll keep looking for anything related to that, to CSI Migration Core, and then make sure it is resolved in this release.
Okay, thank you. And next one is CSI Migration vSphere. So yeah, 2.3 just released. I think the rest of them are still the same. The raw block, we're planning to have that release end of year. NFS v4 is the same thing. And this issue is still, I think we're trying to get this PR merged to address the CRD issue. I don't know whether we can do a release before 2.4 yet, so that's still under discussion. Okay, the next one is CSI Migration Azure Disk. Do we have Andy or Michelle? Maybe you know the status?
I think, yeah, I think there is no blocker, so
okay,
just need a PR to turn it on.
Okay, thank you. And the second one is the Azure file. Is that the same or?
Azure file is just waiting for FS group.
Oh, okay.
Delegating FS group, go beta. Otherwise, it's all good.
Okay, thank you. And then the CSI migration GCE.
One Azure file, I recently saw that they added support for FS group.
Which one?
Azure file, they added
Azure
support.
File.
Yeah, they added support for the FS group on mount in the CSI driver, so it supports now. So it should be...
okay. So we're not blocked by this one. We're not waiting for.
We still I think blocked on.
Still wait for this.
It's waiting on it to go beta in Kubernetes.
Okay, but they have added.
Yeah.
Support in driver. You mean?
Yeah, that's right. They added support from the driver.
Okay, thank you. And next one is GCP Driver. Is there an update from Matt or maybe Java Saad? No?
Yeah, so the plan is to turn on by default this release, and I think Matt will working on that.
And
yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay, thank you. Next one is AWS System Migration. This is still turned on by default in this release.
Yes,
oh,
I
this
think
one.
that's the
Okay.
plan. Yeah,
Okay.
I think Windows support it's already in place. Just I think Matt said he needs some more testing, and
Okay.
otherwise it's all good.
Right. Thank you. And then the last CSI migration item is for SAP FS and the SAP RBD. Is there any update on this one? Oh, did Humble actually add some here? Work in progress. Okay, so he said work in progress. Thank you.
Does he, I think maybe we should follow up with Humble to say if he wants to actually target alpha, in which case we need the cap and stuff like that.
Okay, I will ask him. Oh, Java, you want to follow up with Humble on this?
Yeah. I can follow up with him.
Thank you. So the next one is control volume mode conversion between source and target PVC. So yeah, Ronak is out on vacation, but when he come back, he will continue to work on the design. So next one, secret production. Is Masaki here?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Both generic in-use protection cap and secret protection cap are under review. And currently, secret protection relies on generic in-use protection. Also, prototypes for both of them are implemented linked from the caps.
Oh, okay. I don't know if, but then do you need another issue to, or is that not part of SIG storage? That's like part of API or something?
Yeah, generic in-use protection is under SIG API machinery.
Oh, okay.
It is discussed in the
so
SIG.
if that one, can you actually add an item at the bottom of this sheet? Because if you have some co-owned, I think that one may be good. So we can actually, yeah, we can reference that one. Thank you.
Okay, I will do so.
Okay. Next one. So now we have a few items that are co-owned with other SIGs. Seekoff. This one we co-own with Seekoff. User ID ownership in config maps and secrets. This is design. Jawei or Hemant, is there any update on this one?
Yeah, I had an offline discussion with Ambashek. I think we had some ideas. We just need to turn the idea into a cap, which I think will happen in this release.
Oh, great. Thank you. Non-graceful no shutdown. So I updated the cap. Now we have a narrow scope just to address the real no shutdown case first, but the no partition case can be built on top of it actually. So I updated that, updated the test plan. I'm actually going to try to do an alpha. So let's see if we can make some progress on this one. Next one is enable user namespace in kubelet. So UIDs get shifted. This is so Hemant is reviewing this one. This is going beta. Is that right, Hemant?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it this since last update though.
Okay. Thank you. And the next one is PVC created by stapleset will not be auto removed. Matt?
Yep, this is still should be on track for 123. The API is approved, so it's just getting the implementation reviewing.
Okay, thank you. And next one, volume expansion for stateful set. So yeah, actually Shalini just updated the cap. So it's ready for review again. Hamang, if you get a chance, can you take a look?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Matt as
Sorry,
well,
yeah.
because I think you probably also know the history of this cap. Okay. Next one, execution hook container notifier. So we finally get some reviews from SIG nodes. We actually added a lot of comments. We also get some new comments from an API reviewer from Clayton. So Shanti and I are addressing that. Actually, we need to discuss about it, but we have already addressed some of those comments. So. Next one is, so this is a utils mount split into new repo. Do we have any update on this one? Since this is Srini working on this. Michelle, Yang, do you know? Or Sad? Do we have any update from Srini on this one?
Sorry, which one is this?
This is the move, this utils mount in a new repo.
I
Halfway
think
through,
this is
done.
done.
Oh, okay. Should we
This
remove
was
this?
done. Yeah, I think
Okay.
we can remove this.
No changes done. Okay. Okay, so I will cross this out later. And the next one is prioritize on volume capacity. Are we doing a beta on this one, Michelle?
I didn't have a check to check, but I'll follow up on that.
Okay, that one was alpha, right? Okay, yeah, last release was alpha. Okay, and oh, okay, this one's studied by Masaki. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think.
Yes.
All right. So this actually should be. This is actually does not exist, right, in the 1.22. So this is the
Correct.
beginning. Okay, so we probably should just
Thank you.
leave that blank. All right, so that's all we have here. If you have any other items you want to track, please add it to this spreadsheet. Just to remember that deadlines are approaching already. Okay, so the next item is here. We have one from Hemant. You want to talk about this?
This is like not a design issue as such, but we have been noticing like a lot of drivers, CSI drivers actually are like, I think Azure and then many other drivers, I don't want to take names, but like are basically breaking the CSI spec, like why it exists and making directly talking to Kubernetes API, and they require Kubernetes API to they require credentials and set up like service account tokens and whatnot to talk to Kubernetes APIs server, and their deployment as a result has become kind of complicated and moves away from the original design.
Oh, so they usually probably want to use the secret, right? Those type of thing. That's probably typical, isn't it? The secrets normally, but that's usually passed in through the create volume call, right?
Yeah.
Are you saying they directly use it?
And not just for secret, but for different reasons. For example, AWS Driver recently had a change that it wants to talk to API server to get.
Yeah, so it's a little different. So I can say, I can tell you that how we are using it. It's the CSI driver call, the RPC, that inside that we are not talking to Kubernetes at all. This is like another component. So there are other information that we need from the Kubernetes cluster, but it's not inside those API function. Inside those CSI functions itself.
The point is like in general, like it depends on.
I definitely understand that it's actually better not to depend on that at all, but it's just not possible. There are a lot of things. I think with this probably going back to some
No,
other discussion.
let me finish. What I was trying to say is that why driver talks to Kubernetes API server, it depends on what each driver is trying to do. Sometimes it's secret, sometimes it's like trying to get the cluster and the nodes that in which the driver is, so that the node can figure out the topology of the so the driver can figure out the topology in which it exists. Sometimes it wants to like post the meta information about pod PVC back to its own storage APIs. So that's why it's talked to Kubernetes API so that it can get information that Kubernetes does not.
Well, you seem to be getting further away from the mic.
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
No, is this better?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So the reason the driver is talking directly to Kubernetes API is different. It varies from each case, each use case. Like I was just wondering, and like I was talking to Jan and the other day, and we were wondering if we have like failed in that sense in the CSI design, that it should be CO agnostic, whereas like most of
So
the
we
drivers
actually
are
okay.
actually.
I can even give you an example.
Kubernetes
Like
specific.
there was one time we actually have an issue. I think it has to do with the volume expansion. I think we are actually getting a recommendation from Kubernetes side that we should actually just add an admission controller from our own side to prevent that from happening. I think you are actually aware of that issue. So I just think it's kind of a yeah, it's actually definitely it is a desired if the driver does not keep any state, and but then that means Kubernetes need to keep more state or something. So of course there are many reasons, but we were actually asked to do that because we were actually.
I guess one question I have is like, how much of this is required and how much of it is optional? Like, do the drivers have some sane default if they're not able to get Kubernetes API access?
I don't think it's possible at this point, at least for our driver. It has to. The CSI call itself does not, but there are other places, and also a lot of drivers are also using CRDs.
No, if you're talking about vSphere driver Xing, then it needs to talk to Kubernetes. It's not the driver itself talks to Kubernetes API. It cannot function without talking to Kubernetes.
It's the syncer. It's actually the
not the syncer.
It is. I'm saying that the RP. I mean the CSI function itself does not talk to Kubernetes directly.
No, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. The driver itself needs to talk to the Kubernetes API because it needs to extract
we can take a look at that because the CSI function itself does not, like create volume and all of those, does not talk to Kubernetes directly. And there's a syncer that communicates with Kubernetes.
No. But it just like for example, if we don't deploy the the vSphere CSI driver has a dependency on cloud the external CCM, external cloud control manager, because it expects the node objects to have the spec.provider ID. If it is not set, the CSI driver cannot function. And the point is that it's getting list of nodes and figuring out what is the provider ID on those nodes, and it cannot function. So this is not syncer feature. This is the driver itself.
Wait a minute. If a driver needs Kubernetes for basic functionality, how do you ever do like CSI sanity test runs? Like CSI sanity just does CSI with no Kubernetes present at all. So like how would you pass those tests?
They probably wrote it only for Kubernetes.
That's still like an open, there's an open issue for that one. It's not currently.
So taking a step back, it sounds like I think the fundamental problem Hemant is raising is legitimate, right? Ideally, we want CSI drivers not to have to go around CSI's back and talk directly to Kubernetes. It sounds like there are a number of cases for different drivers, different reasons for them to reach around and talk to Kubernetes directly. I think the best thing we could do is try and start to itemize those items and figure out what are the reasons that these drivers are needing to go behind CSI to go talk to Kubernetes directly, and see if we can start promoting some of those use cases into the spec, into kind of the Kubernetes CSI interface, so that we can simplify the drivers again. The goal ideally is that the drivers only go through CSI and don't have to go around it. If they are
Well-
going around it, it basically means there might be something that's missing from the spec that we should look at.
I mean, I don't know if that is the goal. I think the goal would be to make it easier to not need Kubernetes for certain use cases. But like one of the common use cases I think someone mentioned is some drivers just want to use CRDs to persist their own data. And it's like, we're not going to put data persistence.
That's fair. Yeah.
Layer. So it's like it's always going to be cases we just admit, okay, you really should just talk to Kubernetes for that.
Right. I guess it's, are there a common set of kind of use cases where, you know, it's like low hanging fruit that we should just put into the specs so that we can make the life of these drivers easier? You're right. There will always be kind of one-off drivers that are doing something odd that need to talk to Kubernetes, and that's fine. But if there is something we can do to kind of reduce these common cases, it'd be better.
I think the main one that I know of is getting the provider ID from the node object. I think this is for drivers that don't have access to a metadata server that can get this information. So I think they depend on Kubernetes to do that. But I think AWS is maybe one example of this, but I believe they have like two modes, like either, you know, they'll first try to reach out to the metadata server to get it, but if there is no metadata server, then they will fall back and try to get it from the Kubernetes node object.
Yeah, and recently I think the Azure driver also started like talking to API servers, Azure disk driver. That was for secrets, if I'm not wrong. Jan, do you remember?
Yeah, I think that one, so that specific one, I don't understand because we do have secret support in CSI. So I think we need to double click on that one.
So
Got it. And the provider ID one, which provider ID is this?
Apparently there's actually a field on the node object called provider ID, and it's populated by various cloud providers with like the name of the instance.
I see. Interesting.
Is that an annotation or an actual spec field or status field?
It's an actual spec field.
All right.
yeah, and the drivers need it for figuring out where the attach or node publish should go and things like that. So and build a node manager, kind of like an inventory of nodes.
So normally what the CSI driver does is go and grab or ask the CSI driver what the ID is and do the mapping internally. So I guess in this case, the CSI driver doesn't know what the node's ID is, so it goes back to Kubernetes.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, but I mean this, so like provider ID is one example of something that we could add to CSI, right? And it's something that we could get from kubelet and pass it down to the CSI driver during the registration or something like that.
Yeah.
It creates a dependency between the driver and like some other component. Like for example, tomorrow if we have to turn on vSphere CSI migration, then we have to make sure that external CCM is running before you can run the driver. Otherwise the driver won't function. So it's a little bit ugly in that sense, like, and the driver deployment becomes weird. So we have to, yeah, if some things we can fix in CSI and bring it as support, that'll be great actually.
It's also going to be weird because in theory, CSI is not tied to Kubernetes and should be able to work with any CO. So some of these new features will be challenging to describe what they mean when the people who care about them only care about Kubernetes.
Yeah. I think we'll have to look at it by case basis, make sure we're not, leaking too many abstraction details and kind of doing this in the same way. The provider ID one's an interesting one. Like Kubernetes has the node get info call. It has nothing on the request today. So we could potentially put in an optional field that says, this is what the provider thinks that the ID is if you need it. But I would say even, we should hide that behind a capability or something and discourage people from using it, because you don't want folks to, get dependent on the CO for the identity if they don't need it. But yeah, to Ben's point, we should definitely look at it kind of a case by case basis.
We've only ever done one-way capabilities from the SP to the CO. Like what you're describing would be a CO to SP capability in the reverse direction, which we've never contemplated.
That's true. That's true.
So it could be hairy. We'll have to think about it.
But I think the high level point here is let's see if we can find common areas where these drivers are doing things and see if we can make their life easier.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think that'd be good if we can actually make some enhancement in the CSI stack, make it easier. Okay. Yeah, we do actually run into an issue when there is another CO actually want to use the driver and found that it's not actually impossible.
I mean, in the long run, we might end up in a situation where we want to define Kubernetes specific CSI extensions and just admit that the vast majority of people who are implementing CSI only care about Kubernetes. And so we'll just define some Kubernetes extensions then and say, look, these, you don't get these if you're not doing Kubernetes, but we need them in Kubernetes. So we're doing it.
Does anyone use CSI outside of Kubernetes these days?
So we actually have someone, someone opened an issue. I forgot that. Is it Nomad? There was another CO. But
Yeah,
it's actually right. It's actually not possible right now for our driver to work in that environment. So yeah.
So
Interesting.
For Nomad, there was a EBS driver. Actually, the first PR that went in EBS, it directly talked to API server, and it was not possible to opt out. So basically, EBS driver broke in non-Kubernetes environment, and then we had to fix it. So the point is like, yes, people are using CSI drivers. Maybe not all, but at least some popular ones, and some CUs that is not Kubernetes.
Okay, so it looks like we have some follow-up items to do.
And yeah, this could be something we can like.
Yeah, so Hamam, you want to maybe start this?
We could discuss a little bit more, I guess, in the and design something in the Kubernetes, the CSI meeting on this one. So yeah.
Hey, I had one follow-up there. So we already passed down the pod and the PVC of the driver ops for it, right? And that is fairly Kubernetes specific. Is that beyond scope of this discussion? Like you feel these set of issues are beyond looking up PVC details and pod details?
That's a situation where we have a way to just sort of shove it into what would otherwise be an opaque field, and the vendor can control it through their command line options to the sidecars. When we get into like changing how kubelet interacts with things, like there's no command line options you can use. I guess you could have flags on the CSI driver CR that tell kubelet to behave differently. But if there's no like opaque field to jam the information into, you have to just define the new field. That may be the path we go down, is more function calls have opaque fields with CO defined contents.
So drivers that do look up PVC and pod details, those are like, they need the API server connection, right? To look those up today.
I actually don't know.
Some information is being passed to the node publish RPC calls, but like if you're trying to do, there's no information available, I think, in controller node publish those RPC calls. If they want to do something there, then yeah, they'll need to talk to.
But the pod is not right. The pod itself is that, I don't think that one. The pod itself is passed in there.
Yeah, node publish if the driver opts in.
Yeah, the node info. Yeah, the node publish does have that information.
Oh, so it gets jammed into the publish context fields as if it was part of the volume attachment.
As a special annotation, right?
Yeah.
but not for any of the control plane calls.
Correct. That's good.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess you could play the similar game. Stick more stuff in that published context that kubelet supplies.
But if it if it is optional, then it's fine. Like the pod info. But if it becomes mandatory for functioning of driver, then it becomes a problem. Then the driver will not function in absence of those fields. So that's something you want to avoid.
Yeah, but that's a compatibility call that the driver author has to make, right? Like if they wanted to be able to, if they want to implement a fallback so it can work in the absence of it, then they can do that. But if there's no way to do a fallback, they just have to say, look, this is our compatibility. Like you got to have Kubernetes version X or higher, because that's the one where we implemented this new feature. And if you don't have that, it just doesn't work.
I think for those use cases where like some fundamental thing of the driver won't work without Kubernetes, I think those are the ones we should target first at like seeing if we can make that better.
So maybe this issue then, that's the provider ID issue.
Yeah.
Like this is a problem. Okay. Anything else on this?
No,
we can have thanks. We can have follow-up discussions in the CSI meetings on that. And then the next, do we have Joe here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to talk about this?
Okay. Hey everyone, this is a new driver I designed for the non-volatile memory over fabrics named CSI MF Driver. The MMF is a standard protocol which is extended from NVMe. And the Linux kernel has already supported it since 5.0. Wait a minute.
Can you add a link of this driver here?
Yeah. Wait.
Right. So basically, the question is.
This is the link for driver and.
So whether we want to, maintain such a driver in Kubernetes CSI, like what is the criteria for accepting the driver there, right? So
this is the NVMe spec. And the NVMe was created to enable the NVMe comments to transfer data between a host and a SSD or system over a network fabrics, just like sambascsi. But the NVMe hold a more higher LPS and lower latency. And now NVMe already support many transports beyond the PCIe, such as Ethernet, fiber channel, TCP, and RDMA. And my CSI MMF driver many supports RDMA and TCP for SDS. In this driver, I have already implemented basic interface like load the publish volume and load the unpublished volume and load the expand volume. And the end users can use this driver to map a remote SSD to a Docker like sambascsi. Yeah.
So
that's yeah. What I want is to merge this driver to the Kubernetes SIG, just like CSI sambascsi driver.
So Saad, Michelle, Yang, what is the criteria for accepting a driver and maintain it under Kubernetes CSI? So
that is a good question. I'm not sure we have a officially defined criteria. I think generally, you know, there you know, existing kind of projects or teams behind them. So if you look at the other CSI drivers, they'll be like Azure, AWS, kind of the big cloud providers. I don't know what we did for the common CSI drivers like iSCSI and so on. I think we ended up putting them under Kubernetes CSI. Maybe we can follow a similar model here.
We need to yeah, check. Yeah, that's
I think it's mostly just like if for like the generic stuff like iSCSI, like we and NFS, like we do have drivers and libraries there under Kubernetes CSI. We did have one for Fiber Channel, but no one wanted to maintain it, so we closed it. So I think, you know, for this case, since this NVMe over Fabric is sort of a generic thing in line with like iSCSI and Fiber Channel, like we can definitely consider it, but we need to make sure that we're going to have people willing to maintain this driver and like help set up CI and stuff like that as needed.
Okay. Yeah, so Joe, basically, you know, we need to see if there are people who are actually, there are contributors who are actually willing to help maintain this driver. So will you be interested in maintaining the driver if this is under Kubernetes CSI?
Okay.
Because otherwise, like that's Michelle said, that's the Fiber Channel driver. Nobody, it's there, but then nobody is maintaining them. So we actually have to deprecate them. So is this still there, Michelle? Or is it removed or archived? What's the status of this?
I think we archived the repo.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's probably something we need to figure out first, just to see if there are people who are willing to help maintaining the driver. Otherwise, probably ended up the same as the Fiber Channel driver. Oh, I think we are already on top 2 minutes past. So, hey Joe, so why don't you think about it and see if you know, if you or your teammates or anyone else who are interested in maintaining this, then we can, you know, talk about it again.
Yeah, okay. Maybe we can also send out an email to the group to see if anyone is willing to help with this.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I think we are running out of time. I think this is the same. Just if you are attending KubeCon in person, please put down your name there. So I will put out my name here. If you know, if LA does not shut down the conference, I think I will be there. So okay, that's it for today. Anything else? Otherwise, that's it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.